Ladies and gentlemen of the media, FIA President Jean Todt.
Hello. I'm delighted to crown Ferrari as the 2010 Formula One World Champions.
Monsieur Todt, I think we have to have some races first.
What? Still?
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Gareth Jones on Speed for Season 6, 2010, henceforth to be known as Gaz Top on Speed due to contractual obligations to something I said in the last series. With me, as always, Zog and Richard. Hi, fellas.
Hello there.
Hello.
I'm excited to have you back.
It's nice to be back.
It's been a while.
Because both you and I, Gareth, have been around the world and we couldn't find our baby. No, that was Lisa Stansfield.
You're confusing yourself with Lisa Stansfield.
Yeah,
again.
but no, we've been
freezing here in London.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that next
in the next
show.
show. More on what we've been doing.
Much to discuss.
Well, one or two things have happened in our absence. Let's start with the big news. Well, the change of management at Virgin Manor. Oh, it's not that. No, it's not that at all. No. What's his name? Mickey Shoe something coming back to Formula One?
Michael something.
Yeah,
Mike Shoemaker.
A bit handy, apparently.
Young guy.
The reason why you've now got to change your name to Gaz Top.
I said on the programme that if he did come back, I would change my name to Gaz Top. I think maybe just for this one programme, just call me Gaz today.
Okay.
Yeah. And do you like the hair, by the way? Back combed up here.
Yeah. Yeah, not sure on that snotty green fella you brought with you. Overseas listeners will have no idea what we're on about. But, Google a programme called Get Fresh from the 80s. It was great.
And talking about 80s, Michael Schumacher. Oh, actually, it was 90s, wasn't he?
Yeah,
sorry.
He was around in the 80s, otherwise he would be 20 at most now. In which case he'd be the hotshot young guy. But he's not. He's the hotshot old guy. This is the weird thing.
Well, and this is the thing. How much of a hotshot is he going to be at 41, I think he is now?
Yeah.
He's going to be the oldest guy on the field. How good's he going to be?
What do you reckon?
Well, I don't think he's going to win. As in, I don't think he's going to win the championship. I think he'll win some races.
He won't be happy with that, though, will he?
Well, no, and that's hopefully what will make this season terrific, is that he's a racer of the finest type. Well, I mean, apart from some of the dirty things that he did in the past, but he's one of those people who won't just go, do you know what? 18th's probably okay. I'll just cruise around at the back, keep out of trouble, look after the engine. You know, that's not in his psyche in the same way that I don't think it's in Lewis Hamilton's psyche. And therein lies potentially one of the great scraps of this season. Assuming, of course, that Mercedes is any good.
Yeah, and you say the great scrap of the season, but I mean, I think we've got a bunch of great scraps coming up because there's inter-team competition. I think the Lewis Jensen thing is going to be a great little battle. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Rosberg and Schumacher go together. In that, I think this is going to be a great test for Rosberg because if he really is as good as so many people reckon he is, then this is the year that he has to show it. If he's beaten by Schumacher by too great a margin, and if he can't really learn from Schumacher in this year, then I think his star is going to be fading. This is the year where he really has to prove himself, and who better to learn from than Schumacher?
Yeah.
Many have crumbled whilst being Schumi's teammate, all extremely competent racers have watched their careers fritter and crumble away as soon as they're measured against Herr Schumacher. It'll either be the making or the breaking of Nico Rosberg, that much is certain, and also probably for about a dozen other drivers in the field as well, with Schumacher the benchmark there. If you can't compete against Schumacher, there's no point having you in the team. Any team.
The prospect of Schumacher coming in as, the old master and competing head-to-head against Lewis, against Vettel. We've got an absolutely fantastic season in prospect. I can't wait to see it unfold.
So just minutes away from the start of the 2010 F1 season here in Melbourne, and on the grid there the champion returns. Michael Schumacher about to get into his Mercedes for... No, wait, what's this? He's not getting into the car, and we're hearing from our reporters on the grid he's got a bit of a hurty neck and he can't be bothered, so he's going home. And yes, the rest of the grid has decided this is all really rather disappointing and there's no point in racing, so they're all going home too. Goodbye.
Sniff Petrol!
Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed! Schumacher in Formula One in 2010 isn't the only big news. The other big news is, will any of the 3, or is it 4 teams who are coming into F1 this year, will they actually turn up? We've got US F1, we've got Lotish. That's what I call them. It's not really Lotus, they're Lotus-ish, aren't they? Yeah. Lotish. Although I am also contractually obliged, whenever we say Lotus, to say Malaysia, truly Asia. I've got to say that as well. Who else? Campos Meta. Yeah. And BMW Sauber, who have got Ferrari engines.
Yeah, now that's a bit confusing.
And what's this Stefan GP who might or might not be around, or the Serbian setup there?
I don't know. It sounds like some kind of 90s BBC after the news drama series. Stefan GP. He's like a doctor who solves crimes in his spare time. That's no name for a team. It's rubbish.
He's like a vulture at the moment. I think he's hovering around the carcasses, the rotting carcasses of the new teams. And if one of those teams sort of fails, he'll be in there. I'll have them and call it Stefan GP.
So he's a vulturous doctor.
Vulturous doctor detective.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's a kind of hobby, but he's damn good detective. But you keep your nose out of this, Dr. Stefan. Not so fast, Chief Inspector. Where were you on the night of the 7th?
I was qualifying.
He probably drives a Bristol or something.
They always have,
but with a Ferrari engine. So that's a new trend for confusing.
Campos of the new teams is the one which has got me scratching my head most at the moment. They've signed Bruno Senna. Hooray, good thing. They are mooted to be desperate for cash. And Tony Texera, him what owns A1GP, is supposed to be buying into the team. Oh, so that's where the A1GP money is it?
Well, the thing is, if you can't get enough money together to keep A1GP going, how are you going to find the money to put into Campos Meta? That's
I don't know.
Question.
Also, I heard that he was playing competitive Scrabble and he put down his own name over a triple word score. 1 million points.
And he was
1 million points.
1 million points. And it turns out in competitive Scrabble that points means pounds. So
I was going to say that was you had
pounds. For using the X.
Well, I'm afraid I'd be terrified if I worked for Campos Meta and thought that Tony Texera was about to be my boss. I'd be terrified. I'd be jumping off that bridge in Spain that they have over water that people jump off.
Trying to narrow it down. I gather there's several, although not in Madrid, which is, I think, the only European capital not built on a major waterway.
That's true.
What are you doing?
I was visualising the bridge.
Bridge-based mirth.
It's the one that they drive around in the Valencia circuit. There's a bridge, isn't there? That particular one.
The tapas bridge.
That's it. Yes, the bullfighting bridge.
The lisping bridge. We could go on with national stereotypes all day.
The Sangria Bridge.
Let's continue having a go at Tony Textiles, or whatever his name is, for his suspicious investment in the Hemel Meta team.
US F1.
Hemel Meta's my mate.
Hemel Meta? What are you talking about,
Sorry,
Porter?
Campos Meta. I've got a friend called Hemel Meta. Hello, Hemel.
Really?
Yeah.
Hemel Meta?
Hemel Meta, yeah. But it's spelt differently. And he's not a Formula One team any more than Stefan GP as a doctor. Do you know what? This is jet lag, isn't it? This is what's going on. It's jet lag. It's kicking in. More of that in the next programme. Where were we?
Zog, you had an interesting point to make about US F1. You were talking earlier on about their car.
I just thought it was, all this stuff about who's going to make it to the grid aside, the thing that interests me about the new teams, got quite a geeky note, is...
Can I just say good then?
Yeah, no problem with that. Is that 2 of the teams are going to be turning up with cars that haven't seen a wind tunnel yet. They've been designed entirely using CFD. US F1 and Manor, Virgin, both have cars that have been designed entirely on computers. CFD, computational flow dynamics.
Now, Nick Worth, who's designed the Virgin Manor car... Yeah. Designed the Acura car that's racing in the American Le Mans series, and that was a completely CFD car, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Is it computational fluid dynamics or computational flow dynamics?
No idea. One
I thought
Fluid,
it was flow, but fluid sounds right. I think I got flow from that song that you did a while ago.
But
I mumbled it because I wasn't certain if it's fluid or flow.
But in any case, whichever it is, it's the same thing. It's using computers to crunch the numbers and do the modelling of what you would otherwise test in a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
And I just think this is going to be a fascinating test of how good that technology is, because obviously those guys reckon that it is good enough. Well, and also that they're going to save money by doing it this way. It's going to be cheaper to do that than to buy time in wind tunnels to make lots of models. But I have read a couple of things that suggest that actually if you do all this stuff properly, CFD isn't that cheap. If you do it properly,
I was going to ask, because you've got to have supercomputers and a lot of
does actually take
rendering time or something.
Yeah, and you've actually got to spend a long time on even these quite powerful sort of server farms.
I suppose you can just have the computer put in there and then it's there, and it's probably cheaper. Well, is it cheaper to have that than a wind tunnel built?
Or do you rent space on someone else's machine? Is that what you do down the line?
Well, you can do. I think you can do it either
Same
way.
But you rent a wind tunnel, but then you've got to get building the model. I suppose, is it quicker?
Well, it's
quicker to make changes.
Not necessarily, and it can be easier, I believe, on a wind tunnel to change several things at once and get a result from investigating what you do if you change several parameters. In some ways, CFD can be more limiting. This is the thing. Hopefully, we're going to get a practical demonstration of how far you can get towards producing a really good race car design using CFD compared to the wind tunnel approach.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
They're not actually going to be called Virgin Manor, are they?
They're going to be called Virgin F1 or Virgin Racing. Virgin Racing,
right? Because Virgin Manor sounds like a porn film.
Oh, Mr. Longcock, welcome to Virgin Manor. Are you comfortable holding your own helmet?
Oh, I'd rather you did it. Know what I mean?
Oh, cheeky. Now, Mr. Longcock, would you like to see my wind tunnel?
Oh, not off.
Behave yourself. Here it is.
What? Hang on. This is just a computerised simulation of an aerodynamics testing facility.
It's computational fluid dynamics.
No way, that's not a double entendre. Virgin Manor is not what I imagined.
Oh, hello, I'm Richard Branson.
And this bird's got a bloody beard.
Sniff Petrol! And up you don't Gareth goes up! Speed available and now extra charge!
The end of 2009 and the start of 2010, I don't think was a particularly good time to be Swedish and interested in cars. That's the proviso there.
Right.
Yeah, because it's probably very nice being Swedish,
The quality of life and all that. That's
fresh air,
nice
fondue. Yeah,
mind you, I don't know if it's snowing where you are.
What did you just say? It's not great pornography. Yeah. I suppose you got a point. Yeah,
Quite good close harmony.
Should we do that again?
As well.
Saab, yes.
Saab and Volvo. First of all, hang on, we'll come to Saab in a moment. First of all, Ford have sold off Volvo to Geely, the emerging Chinese manufacturer who've got designs on coming into Europe, haven't they? And they're going to do it with Volvo. I think this is rubbish news for Volvo, and I think Ford have shot themselves in the foot in doing this as well. Shall I explain why? Or do you?
No, go on, because I would like to know. What do you think?
Well, I think Volvo have some pretty top technology, access to some pretty hip and useful technology, which the only way that we're ever going to stay ahead of keeping the Chinese from consuming the entire motor industry is protecting that IP.
Yeah, but what technology do you mean specifically? 'Cause
I think it's a really strong brand rather than anything else. They've got this.
Yeah.
Above all, it is the safe in the good way. In other words, safety on the road as opposed to unimaginative. Above all other brands, that is the car brand that you associate with safe motoring.
Well, what's quite interesting with Volvo is the way that they don't really play up safety in their advertising anymore because everyone else does, and they're quite happy to sit back. Because I think if you went to someone in the street and went Volvo, say one word, they'd go safe. And that's fine. All that work they did throughout the sort of 70s and 80s in their advertising, and it got rather tedious, and everyone thought of Volvos as boring. But now it's all come back to be on their side because safety sells, big style. And they were Ford's. It's an odd thing that Ford's getting rid in as much as I know why, because they're trying to consolidate around Ford and not ancillary stuff. But Volvo was Ford's sort of centre of excellence for safety, and Volvo have this hugely expensive and very complicated safety lab up in Sweden. And things as diverse as you know, sort of Fiestas and the Aston DB9. All the crash testing for that was done up there. So they're losing that unless they maintain some kind of contractual obligation, which I doubt they would. But as far as technology is concerned, a lot of that is supplier-driven. You know, Bosch will come up with the new generation radar, better airbag, radar cruise control, or one of these sort of stay-awake systems. And someone like Volvo will drive that by saying, we really want to do this and we'll work with you. But the way that the modern industry works generally is that it is a partnership and that suppliers drive an awful lot of it, which is why a lot of technology will appear first on, say, a BMW, but then the next thing you know, Jag's got it and Merc's got it and Audi and then Volvo. So I don't really think Volvo's giving away too many secrets in that respect, because what the Chinese can do, if they so choose, is just
choose to go direct to Ricardo, to Getrag, to
they'll do
Bosch.
It for them. It's just about writing a big enough
reverse
check.
engineer something. If
Exactly, which they've proved they can do with basic car designs.
I mean, it will mean that Volvo will now stop using numbers and get some ridiculous names for their cars if they're owned by a Chinese company.
Still my favourite one, which I don't know whether this made the final edit because I was abroad when the last Top Gear of the series went out, but something that I discovered just before when we were writing the awards segment was the Cool Bear, the Great Wall Cool Bear.
Great Wall Cool Bear.
Great Wall, as we know. And Great Wall are the kings of reverse engineering. They've essentially just bought a fleet of Toyotas and then dismantled them and made their own. And the Cool Bear is, I think, a knockoff of that Scion XB, I think, that little sort of funny
little Toyota
thing that's also a Toyota in Japan. And
so could we see the Volvo large wardrobe happy face?
Yeah, it will. It'll just be Smiling Ocean.
Smiling Ocean
wind.
safe box. Mysterious wind.
8 as well. That's what 8 is. That's right, isn't it? 8's really lucky in China.
And 64 is bad. 8 is good.
64 is
bad. It's the 13 of China. 64,
Seriously?
which is why the Alfa
visible by 8 though.
Which is why the Alfa Romeo 164 was sold as the 166 in China. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Well, didn't they increase the production run of, I can't remember which Ferrari model it was. They originally were going to build 444 of them, but because it was considered bad luck in the Chinese market, they built another 4, so they built 448 of them.
Just to be on the safe side.
That does ring a bell, but I can't remember what that was.
599 maybe?
It might have been the Enzo. Ferrari usually build 499 of their limited run cars.
Yeah, because
399, I can't remember. Baker's does. I don't know.
We should check our facts.
We should check our facts, don't we?
We should make them up.
Belated New Year's resolution.
No one knows any better.
Someone said to me a while ago, "How much rehearsal do you do for that podcast of yours?" No, none.
Here's your answer.
Doesn't show.
I'll tell you the rehearsal we do. On the way into the living room, Zoe says, have you heard that thing about it? And we're recording. Yeah. That's about it, mate. I'm telling you. All right, so bad news for Volvo. Are they going to be all right, do you think, Rich? I called you Rich on air, baby. That's very cute, isn't it?
Gaz. But you are contractually Gaz for this programme. Will Volvo be all right? It's so hard to say because I think they are a valuable car company as much as if it all goes horribly wrong with Chinese ownership, that assuming that there's someone else out there who's got the money, that they are worth buying. I also think if it really came down to it, that perhaps this time around the Swedish government couldn't bear to let its only remaining car company go down. Who knows? But that's all worst case scenario down the line. As it stands, they've been very good and they were profitable for quite a while, but then they started making a loss because they had to sort of start investing in the next generation platform. They've been incredibly clever in spinning off a number of cars from one basic platform and box of bits, which in
the
modern car world...
the Escort. The Focus. I'm so 80s. It's the gas top in me.
But no, because they came up with their own platform called P2, which started off under the old S80 and then was also used under the S60, the V70, and most successfully the XC90, a huge seller for them on a generic platform, and has been a massive success. And I think one of the things they were shocked about is that everybody wanted the really expensive top of the range model, ka-ching for them. So that was good. But then now you've got the new S80, the new V70. They're on the sort of an evolution of that platform. It's the platform that's underneath some American Fords. That's how Ford was so impressed with it.
What's that big, the 500?
Well, the 500, which then became the Taurus again.
Yeah.
And is still a Taurus, in fact. Or is it the new Taurus? We'll talk about this in the next programme, actually.
Okay.
They've got that as a very successful sort of business model, but they've got to keep it up. They basically need to develop a whole new box of bits for the next generation. The V50 and the S40 are sort of separate to that because they are on the Focus box of parts. But, I mean, again, it's like, what do they do then? How do they replace it? Do they go back to someone like Mitsubishi, as they did with the old S40, and get a bunk up there?
That was horrible.
Yeah, I know.
Or even even DAF. No, they don't exist anymore, do they?
Past.
I'm quite fond of Volvo. I've said this on the show before. I think it's a brilliant brand for the 21st century, and I think it's a real coup of the Chinese to get hold of it. I think that they'll do well with that. I've got a Volvo coming. I think I've got a V70 Drive E, is it they call it? The eco version. I've got a few trips to do up to Derbyshire, and I want to do it as economically as possible. And I figure this might be the car to do it. So we'll see.
Get set for pleasantness, though.
Yeah, a bit of
pleasant.
Pleasant.
I haven't driven that Drive E one, but the V70 I've driven, and it's just pleasant. It's a very pleasant car.
I've got a big soft spot for Volvo because one of my favourite of my old cars was the P1800 that I had a few years ago, which was absolutely fantastic. And for a car of that age, it was incredibly reliable and so beautiful.
It was actually a Jensen, wasn't it? Wasn't it built by Jensen in this country?
No, we know that
body panels.
some were built by Jensen for a while, but they stopped that because the quality wasn't up to much. And no, the one I had was built in Sweden.
I like the C30 because it does evoke the old P1800 ES, which I like I like me shooting brakes, you know me.
Yeah, it's a nice looking little car. That they just put a new nose on it, which I don't think entirely works. But generally, yes, they've got a nice looking range of cars. They're just brimming with pleasantness.
Ford make much in America of the fact that they own Volvo. When you buy a Volvo in America, in the rear window, it's got a sticker that says Volvo brought to you by Ford. Did you know that?
No,
yeah, baby.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And in Britain, people got no idea. In China, I guess, people haven't even heard of Volvo. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, I don't know, but it still seems to be an open market over there in as much as there are no preconceptions. We've talked about this on the show before, haven't we? It's like Buick is seen as quite cool and quite desirable over there, whereas they're a little bit of a laughing stock in the US, a bit of an old person's car. Although, again, we'll talk about this in the next show, because I think they're trying to turn that around by making shock horror some nice-looking cars. Same with Rover.
Yeah,
but again, no preconceptions on Rover, no thought that they're sort of old people's cars or whatever people think in this country, so they've just gone in there and then had to use a sort of bastardised version of the name and a bastardised version of the cars, and I don't know how that's working out. Not well, by the sounds of it. But Buick's doing all right out there. Very
great.
Well,
and they sell some extraordinary cars as Buicks as well. There's a rebadged Kia Sedona is sold as a Buick in China, staggeringly.
It's all manner of stuff going on over there, which
started this talking about generally Swedish cars, not just Volvo, because poor old Saab, terrible sad news. Just before Christmas, was it? It was Christmas Eve, I think.
Yeah.
That GM had given up trying to find a buyer for it because the conditions under which they were trying to sell the company really wasn't making it possible for anyone to buy the company, because they wouldn't sell the intellectual property that the cars use, because it's GM property, and this is the real problem, isn't it? And so they've allowed it to go unless Bernie buys it, which is the latest thing. Bernie Eccleston and the Genie Capital investment group from Luxembourg are putting a bid together to buy Saab.
To what end?
The Bernie thing seemed a very odd twist.
Yeah.
And apparently he has plans to use the Saab name in motorsport in a big way. But
so does this mean Bernie gets into World Rally Championships? He's not going to take him into F1, is he? If he manages to buy it.
Well, also, hang on, he sort of owns the sport, and then he's going to have his personal team in it. I mean,
he's done it before. Brabham.
Well, I suppose.
But I think, as you say, it's more likely that he do something in a sport other than F1. I think it would more like.
But it is bizarre, and it's I can't see it working out. The most convincing bid was Koenigsegg, and they bailed when they were very close to signing. I mean, Christian Koenigsegg, the man behind Koenigsegg, was giving interviews talking about, when he got the keys to Saab, he was really looking forward to sorting it out, and then suddenly
he was really looking forward to finding the slot where the key actually goes in.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. He was down by the handbrake. He couldn't find it.
He didn't know it was down by the handbrake.
Yeah. So,
Terry.
Yeah, it seems like it's all over.
It's weird, isn't
and
it?
there was a real shame to see them go.
It's funny, isn't it? How we're all bothered about this, and it's sort of like, actually, how many great cars have Saab made?
One or two, really.
One or two.
Yeah.
How many great cars do they currently make?
But they were so memorable that
I know,
you do have this enduring favour for them.
There's great affection for them that's sort of out of all proportion to their actual excellence, but in some way that the world seems to be a better place because they existed.
A cousin of mine was a big Saab fan for years, and he was heartbroken when on one occasion he was doing a gig in New York or something, came back to the UK to find that the family Saab had died and his wife had in the meantime replaced it with something that wasn't a Saab, which he couldn't understand. Why on earth could you possibly replace a Saab with something that wasn't a Saab?
Two interesting things about this. First of all, the new 9.5, which again is another reason why I sort of find myself disproportionately sad about Saab going down, is because I was quite looking forward to seeing what that car was like and hoping that it was quite good, because I like the look of it, and it's based on the Insignia chassis and electronics package and everything, and the Insignia is actually quite a good car, so that was promising. And
the aero, that concept was gorgeous.
Yeah, there was no way in a million billion years they were ever going to do that. Although Koenigsegg is still sort of saying that if all Saab falls apart, they wouldn't mind buying the design to that.
Really?
Which interesting. The new 9.5 now, there was a rumour, actually speaking of Buick, that it was the whole production line would just be taken wholesale out to China, and it would become a Buick out there, an exclusive sort of China-only Buick to start with. Now, apparently GM in Europe have denied that's true and say that if no buyer is found for Saab, as it looks likely, the new 9.5 will be a stillborn car. But there are dozens of them out there, pre-production cars, still being tested. Even just this week, Saab released some photos of the first 9.5s coming down the production line, along with the first 9.3 Cabrios to be built in their Swedish factory, because up until now they've been built in
Valmet.
by Valmet in Finland. So it's a really odd thing that, and again, sort of the only Swedish-built 9.3 Cabrios will become huge collectors' items, and the 9.5s will just become these extraordinary sort of the curios. But what a thing!
Like the Tucker of its age.
Yeah, the Tucker of its age. Or we were talking about before we came on air, the Leyland 4.7. If you don't know what it is, please don't ask me to explain. But if you know, you know. So yeah, that's all I say is that it's very. I think it's very Saab about sad. It's very sad.
It's
about
very
Saab.
Saab
With
about
the jet lag
sad.
again, and I think it is probably too late.
I don't think we've ever said anything remotely like this on this programme before. Like, clearly, as we're in 2010, we're in the dawning of a new age. I really hope Bernie has success and manages to buy this firm just to save it. I don't want Saab to go. I really feel... I've owned Saab, so I come from a family of Saab owners. I've owned two. Gaz Top had a free Saab back in the 80s. Sorry.
Did he?
Sorry, I had a free Saab back in the 80s for a while. One that Timothy Dalton had before me as well. There was a film in which Timothy Dalton...
Him who was in Doctor Who recently.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
with a very Welsh accent. I've never heard him sound so Colwyn Bay.
Yeah, the voiceover really annoyed me until I realised it was Timothy Dalton being a Time Lord.
Being a Welsh Time Lord.
That just brings one final point about Saabs. If Saab go down, eventually in a few years' time there'll be less and less second-hand Saabs that are looking a bit scruffy but interesting, and that will pose a major problem for movie producers who want to make it clear that a character is interesting and alternative.
Give him a Saab.
Give him a Saab. State of Play, have you seen that? The Soloists, Sideways, interesting, alternative, liberal, free-thinking American character. Give him a Saab.
Yeah. And there's one street in Islington which I drive down regularly, which every other car certainly every third car is a Saab.
Yeah.
If Saab disappear, that street's going to be bereft of cars.
Nice, pleasant, reasonable people in Blackwell next drive.
You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed. Sorry, you've been listening to Gaz Top on Speed with Zog.
See ya.
With Richard Porter.
Goodbye.
And me, and apparently I'm called Gaz Top. See you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to GarethJones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!